Hi everyone, my name is Lasta and today I would like to show you the new features in Memgraph Lab 2.6. Memgraph Lab is a visual user interface that allows you to manage and explore data saved in the Memgraph database. I'm going to show you the new features using the Game of Thrones dataset, which is available in Memgraph Lab in the dataset sections. So you just load the dataset and you're set to go. It's actually everyone's favorite dataset, so I guess you can say that the graph community is a bit morbid. So let's go to the data execution. I prepared 4 queries here. The first query I would like to run will show you who killed who. So in the previous Memgraph Lab release, I showed you that you can run individual queries just by selecting one and then running selected. So let's see what are the actual results of this query. So this query shows all the nodes. The nodes are characters from the Game of Thrones TV show. And you can see not all of the characters are mentioned here by name. You have just knight. So it's some unknown knight. And the relationship between the nodes is killed. And the relationships have properties count. So in most of cases, the count is 1 because the hound killed one knight. But some other relationships have more counts because here in the gladiator case, it's 4 gladiators killed. So we have this count 4, which is the property of the relationship killed, and it tells us how many actual nodes were killed. So just by looking at the graph results from here, I get a lot of information, but I would like to get more. So the first feature in this new Memgraph Lab is that we added some new functions to the graph style script. That is the language you can use to change the visual appearance of your graphs. So here you can see that each of our node has a fixed size of 6, and the new aggregation functions in the graph style language can now allow you to make a more complex it's just not 6, but like a more complex feature to get the visual appearance you want. So I've pasted here a function, well, several functions, which will create a certain look to my graph results. So what am I doing? I'm looking at all the relationships coming from nodes and then summarizing the count property. So I want to know how many nodes one node killed. And then I'll divide that number with 50 because a certain person, hint hint, killed a lot of people, and the number would just be too large and it would occupy most of the screen. So we are dividing by 50. So what I'm actually doing, I'm saying make the nodes as large as how much people a certain node killed. So if I save this, if I apply this style, you can see that one node immediately pops out. Who do you think it is? Do you know? Ta-da! It's Daenerys Targaryen. So just by looking at the graph now, I know who's the biggest killer in the bunch. And that's our first feature. You can look at all the functions that were added to the language in the change logs. So let's go back to the Cypher editor. And as I said before, you can, in the previous Memgraph Lab, if you wanted to see a certain results out of all of your multiple queries, you had to select it and then run selected. But in from this version of Memgraph Lab, you can just run all 4 queries. So I'm not going to select anything. Please unselect everything. And then I'm just going to run everything. I am going to see the results of the last query, but here I can actually change what results I'm looking at. So query 1 is the graph results we were just looking at and adjusting. And query number 2 is calculating the between centrality to find out which episode had the most deaths. So here we calculated the between centrality of each episode, and the episode with the highest between centrality had the most deaths. It's the episode Bell, and if you remember, it's the episode where Daenerys is attacking the King's Landing, and she's killing basically everyone in King's Landing, and that's why this episode has such a high between centrality score. So because we know it's Daenerys who is doing most of the killings, we can now do this manual transaction. We're gonna remove Daenerys Targaryen for the dataset, but because I defined that this is the beginning of a transaction and I want it to roll back after everything is said and done, it won't actually do any changes to the dataset. It will just show me the results, but the dataset won't be changed. So here I'm removing Daenerys from the dataset, and then I'm calculating between centrality again to see which episode has the most deaths when Daenerys casualties are not included. So that's the query number 4, and then you can see the biggest between centrality without Daenerys casualties is the Winds of Winter, and that is the episode in which the sept blows up and everybody inside dies. You can also download these results. Previously you could only download them in JSON format, but now we've also added the option to download in CSV and TSV formats. And last but not least, it's the new feature concerning the query collections. If you don't know what query collections are, they're basically collections of your queries that you run frequently. So you don't have to go to the query execution all the time and copy paste queries or run them from the history. You can just have a collection of queries which have their own execution window and results window. What's new here is that you can have this description in Markdown, and we've added highlighting of the code blocks. So here you can see I've included part of the Python code, and then if I add highlighting, it will appear as if it's Python code. We also support Bash and Cypher and C++ and C and a bunch of other languages. So check the changelog for that as well. I will just show you now what happens when I run the query. So here in the collections, I can run the query and see the results. And that's it for Memgraph Lab 2.6. If you find any of the new features useful, download the new Memgraph Lab in our download hub. And if you notice any bugs or you want to give us any feedback, feel free to do so on our Discord channel. Check the documentation for the changelog and all the other bug fixes which are not included in this video, and I hope I'll see you around. Bye!